Motor outdoors, here we come. Motor outdoors.
Talked a little bit about fishing opener and taking
Fishing opener, turkey season. We'll come up with all kinds of good stories between those two things. So
a lot happened.
yeah,
A lot.
I can't wait. I
Sleeping in and
Oh yeah.
Yep. Don't shoot this one. Was he 15 yards in front of me, just staring at me like a jackwagon?
And then I think Scott's gonna put that video out on YouTube this weekend, so you can be like, check out that video from Scott
nice.
put up that talks about pretty much everything.
Yeah, wraps up this whole episode and video.
All right,
You boys ready?
Sure.
Welcome to Border Outdoors Podcast. I'm Seth.
I'm Mac.
And I'm Trevor.
Trevor, welcome back, buddy. Good to have you back on the old podcast here. How's life been?
I've been doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Mac and I have been able to get out a little turkey hunting and stuff since we last talked to you, and have come down with a few stories, and we've also had fishing opener in between there. And I am not as much of a man as most of you real men are, so I have not been out fishing. I'm not a fishing opener guy, unless somebody drags me out on their boat with them. So let's start there. Let's recap fishing opener. Mac, did you get out? How'd it go?
I did go. This is the first fishing opener I think I've been out in a couple of years. So I went out to Buffalo Lake in town. Buddy Matt Kruger, who actually he's been on before, and he wrote the theme song when everyone, the intro. So I took him and his son Hank out, and
His son's name is Hank?
Yeah,
That's very kind of
Hank,
awesome.
and then he's got another one named Conway, and then he just had another son, and his name's Brooks, I believe.
That's
Brooks.
awesome.
He's a big country music guy.
Couldn't tell.
But then, so we went out fishing. We tried the water temp on Buffalo. I was surprised was 60 degrees already.
That high already, huh?
Yeah,
That's
Wow.
crazy.
I was actually really surprised. So we tried like the flats in the middle of the lake, and then we tried some like where the river comes in and where Mill Creek comes in.
Yep.
Tried jigging fatheads. Tried a little bit of plastics, jigging, casting, kind of real slow, dragging. Tried Lindy rigging, and it was a lot of fun. But having a 5-year-old in the boat, it made it a little challenging. So we didn't get to do everything we wanted to. It was still a lot of fun. It was nice getting the boat out. The boat ran great. The electronics, everything was perfect.
Nice.
Not a hiccup.
Awesome. Weather was beautiful, right?
Yeah, it was a little windy, but it was perfect for opener.
What time did you get out there?
I think we got on the water about a little after 5:15
Okay.
in the morning.
What did you guys go get donuts? Get the kid a hot chocolate? Anything special that
No.
Trevor did to make Hank enjoy himself?
He told Hank, because I called him. It was the 2 days before. It was either Wednesday or the night. I think it was the day before. It was Thursday. No, I called him Thursday.
Yep.
And then Friday, he called me. He said, "Hey, are you home?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Hank's going crazy." So he's like, "I think I'm gonna bring him up." I'm like, "Yeah, come on up." So like I was sitting in the boat, and they pull up, and he pulls out his little tackle box, and he opens everything. I mean, he's got a lot of jigs for like stuff that he's accumulated over the years. He's got jigs all over, and we're setting up his pole for like a bobber, and getting him all rigged up, and then he's just going through all his jigs. He's like, "You know what this catches?" I'm like, "What?" "Sharks." Like everything was like sharks, because he was obsessed watching this show that they used to watch a couple years ago. It was like almost like a river monster kind of thing.
Sure.
Where this guy go catch sharks, and all these like he knows like groupers. He's like, "Yo, let's go get a grouper." And like this, and he had everything all out along the floor in the garage. And he's like, "All right, put it away." So then like he starts putting it away, and I'm like, "Oh, you forgot a hook," and I was gonna throw it in there for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, it doesn't go there." He grabs it and he puts it in, like he's got everything all
spot.
organized in there. He knows where everything is. It's pretty funny.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, so then we didn't get anything on those spots. So then we went to the south side of the lake, kind of by the Wild Marsh golf course.
Yep.
Then we were Lindy rigging. We were marking some fish in about 18 feet. So they're a little deeper than I thought they were going to be.
Sure.
So we're Lindy rigging, and we're finally starting to get mark fish, and then all of a sudden I wasn't paying attention. I was looking down at the graph. He goes, oh, and then I look up, and all of a sudden here comes this boat, nice and quiet, coming right in. Well, it was conservation officers.
Ooh.
So I'm like, all right, no, not a big deal. Don't have anything to hide. So he pulls up and he's like, oh, can I see your fishing license? Show him our fishing license. He's like, good job for having the life jacket on the little guy. And we're like, he's like, no, where are your guys' life jackets? And Kruger had like a stern, but you couldn't see. He's like, oh, I'm wearing mine.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, I got one too. I had the fanny one. He's like, oh, I've never seen that one. So he's going through, check the live well, make sure I had water in it. And then he's going through, he's like, where's your gas tank? I'm like, oh, it's under the floor. He's like, okay, where's your fire extinguisher?
Oh,
and I was like,
red stake that under.
Yeah.
So how's that work if it's like above ground open tank? You don't need one.
That's what I didn't quite understand it. So he said if it's a gas tank that's in the floor or it's kind of sealed in the boat,
yep,
you have to have a fire extinguisher.
Okay.
If you have just a 5-gallon, like on an old,
It just sits there.
Yeah.
You don't need one, he said.
Okay.
And then also another thing, it's kind of a hassle, but we had the throw thing, but he said make sure that throw cushion is on the deck and not shoved.
Yeah, under a seat.
It has to be accessible.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had it. He's like, "Where's your throw?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's up here in the front." And it took me a little bit to grab it out of there. He's like, "Make sure you got that out on top." And I'm like, "All right." I said, "Well, I'm gonna give you a verbal warning on the fire extinguisher. Just go pick one up for like $10." And we bought fire extinguishers for the house, and I had an extra one that I was gonna throw in there, and I completely forgot about it.
Sure. Honest mistake, right?
So then he's like, let me see your driver's license, take a picture of my driver's license. Then I saw him go take a picture of like the tags in the boat. And I'm like, the boat's not in my name. He's like, what?
I don't understand this.
He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I bought it and I haven't changed it over. And he's like, because the tags are still 2022,
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, when they expire, I'll just change them out.
We'll deal with it then.
And then he's like, no. Like
You gotta go change it.
Go
Yeah.
change it.
It's not your boat yet.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yep.
he's like, you're supposed to. It was like 10 or 14 days. Like you have 10 or 14 days to get it changed over.
Is that it?
For I think then you get like a fee
Oh,
on top
okay.
of whatever
Gotcha.
Right.
you pay. So he's like, I'm not gonna write you a ticket or whatever. And then we'll just go get it done.
Sure.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, not a big deal because then my tabs will be good for like what is it, 3 years or 4
It's-
years?
I think 3 years, right?
Every 3 years
Yeah.
for a boat.
I know that's what it is for 4-wheeler, but yeah, man, I always do that crap right away. Because next thing you know, it's been 2.5. Next year you don't get your boat out. Then it's been 3.5, and then you go to DMV and old freaking Krabby Betsy is
Yeah.
like, no, I show this is a different owner. It's been 3 years. I can't process this. Like I don't know,
Well,
man. All of a sudden, it
yeah.
bites you in the butt.
But I got the title in hand, like.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's
Shouldn't
I
be
can
a
see
problem.
it being a problem, like a big problem, if you don't have like the title or like, I mean, you can't do it if you don't have the title
Right.
in general, but people do it all the time.
Right. And like half the stuff I buy, like the trailer I bought from some guy,
Mhm.
I don't know, off Craigslist, right? So I go do it right away, thankfully, because the little piece of paper he had written up for me, they wouldn't take as a proof of sale.
Oh,
So
like
had I waited 3 years, I wouldn't have had his phone number and the text message and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like I just text them, say, hey, they need this. Can you write it up and
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah, I hear
so
ya.
yeah.
They need a bill of sale or something then from it because of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And it's pretty cheesy. It's just written down, but
And a lot
It's
of
something.
yeah, it's
It's
something.
something.
well,
Yeah.
like a lot of those old boats don't have titles. And like you said, like
Right.
the trailers, like you can literally go on Google and type in bill of sale, and there'll be a thing on there
Right.
that you
fill
just
it in,
print
it's a
off, and
homemade
it's like
trailer and
yeah, like driver's license number, address,
Yeah.
like what would be on the title is what's on
Exactly.
there.
right. Well, good for you though. You had the life jackets and
You had
the
everything.
major safety
yeah.
stuff other than the fire extinguisher. So.
Yeah, and Kruger, he works in law enforcement, and he's like, oh my god, it still makes me mad getting like a warning,
Sure.
even though it doesn't go on the record, doesn't do anything,
Sure. It's
He's
just a
like,
bummer.
you know why they have to do that, right? And I'm like, give warnings. He's like, because if it's fishing opener, and if they don't come back with like, I gave this guy a warning, or these guys were breaking the law with a ticket, so I gave him a ticket here. If they don't come back with anything, what would your supervisor think?
Sure.
What did you do for the 4 hours? Did you
Sure.
just sit
Oh,
in
you
your
didn't
truck?
find anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something. It's fishing opener. There's
Right.
things that people, first time out forget about, like I did the fire extinguisher.
Right.
But no, it was I don't have a problem with them. Like,
No.
it's very. I didn't know the gas tank thing. I knew he had that fire extinguisher, but I didn't know why.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. He was a nice guy.
I wonder why that standard's there, because like, if you have an 8-gallon regular tank and that catches on fire, you probably want one, right?
Yeah.
But I suppose you can grab the tank and chuck
Chuck
it
it
out
in
of
the
the
water.
boat.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a good idea to have it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's pretty. It's standard, right? You got
Right.
flammable fuel sitting right on top.
Right.
It's probably a pretty good idea to have it.
Were you smoking out there?
No.
I just never really thought of that. Like, guy out there with a big heater in the back of his boat by his gas can, you know? Like, looking at
I've done it, yeah. I mean, sitting in the back of my buddy's boat, and don't smoke anymore, but like, yeah, 5-gallon gas tank
Right
underneath
there.
the seat. You
Yeah.
step on the bubble to
Yeah,
to
keep
get
it
it
going primed.
to
or
prime it.
whatever.
And
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the chair just chain smoking all
Just
day.
gas
Yeah.
dripping all
You
over.
just smell the fumes.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny.
But and then so that was Saturday morning, Saturday night. The wife and I went out to try the other lake in town. We went to Pulaski, and they got that, what is it, Eurasian milfoil, or
Yeah.
however you pronounce it.
Yeah, Eurasian milfoil.
And I mean, it's thick. Like there was weeds down to 15 feet.
See, that surprises me with how cold the spring was and how long it lasted.
Yeah. So
That some of these lakes have already filled in so quick.
Yep.
So I when I got out on the lake, I drove all the way across the lake, pull out my jigging pole. I'm like, I'll just find, there's some nice little humps out here,
Yeah.
a little deeper. Pull out my HMX, and
I know where this
I
is
don't know what
going.
that is.
the HMX is a Fenwick rod.
Okay.
So it's a Fenwick. Might pull out my HMX Fenwick rod that my
Yep.
brother got me for my birthday a couple years ago. And the fucking tip is broke.
Oh.
I was so that.
It ruined your day.
It ruined my day. It ruined my day. I was
Absolutely.
so, and then like we brought Riley the dog out for the first time. So
Who's we?
I said the wife.
Oh, sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
catch it.
yeah. So her and I brought Riley out,
Mhm.
and she's taking pictures of her the whole time. I'm flustered because my pole's
My
broke.
tip is broke.
So I can't use it, and everything else is set up for Lindy rigs and bobbers. So now I'm like, now I gotta change another pole. So I'm just all flustered. We're on the north side of the lake. The wind's blowing like 20 miles an hour. It felt like just trying to push us into shore. I don't have a fancy trolling motor with spot lock, so I'm going back out, pushing us back in. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So I tried Lindy rigging like above the weeds,
Mhm.
and it wasn't getting anything. And then all of a sudden these boats, like I'm like, we're gonna just do this shoreline. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, there's like 15 boats around us,
Jeez.
and they're all rapping, pulling rappalos.
Really? Huh.
So I'm guessing that's the thing to do on the lake with them weeds. And they were up. I was in 12 feet because I switched over before I got like, I'm like, this ain't working with the Lindy rig. So I switched over to number 5 shad wrap. And I was in 12 feet, and they were farther in than me. So they're in really shallow,
Okay.
but it kind of, it's not a perfect
Sure.
contours. But I saw one guy pull one in, but then I didn't see anybody else pull them in. And
So
then,
maybe that isn't the deal on that.
Right.
well, those guys, they went from the access to that spot,
Really?
Sure.
and they the same shoreline. They'd stop, they'd go the other way, and then they'd stop, and they just it was probably like 400 or 500 yards. They
Okay.
just constantly back and forth. So then I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. It's kind of a prolonged story, but it's important for me.
Okay.
This is the healing process with the
No,
broken fish.
it was
rod.
it was stressful.
I need you to open up about that.
Yeah. So then I'm sitting on the lake. I can see the access. It's dark. It's like 10 o'clock. All I see is tail lights. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of boats out here. There's a lot of people. We'll just chill out for 15 minutes, put everything away. We'll cruise around. Then I'll grab, because you have to lock the trailer, unhitch it, and park him in 2 different spots at the access. So I wait 15 minutes. I still see the same lights sitting there. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I drive there, and it's literally like 4 boats. They decided they're going to have happy hour after getting off the lake.
What the fuck?
And they're just sitting
At the launch.
at the launch.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
So I'm like, kind of whatever.
Right.
So I go get the trailer hooked up, drive down, back in. Well, by the time I walked up there, hooked the trailer, and came back, there's 6 or 7 other boats waiting to come off the lake. These people are still sitting here, like not a care in the world.
What the fuck?
And I'm like getting pissed. I'm like, and then a coming down the
So
hill.
their boats are on their trailers.
They're on
and
their, they're just sitting there talking.
Just hanging out.
Having
Right on the
they're
launch.
having a couple
not even
beers.
pulled up to the top of the hill.
No,
or
they're
anything.
just right, like pulled up enough where I could get turned around. Because
Wow.
there's like a little turnaround thing
Yep.
down there. And then as I'm backing in, here comes 4 other trucks coming down to get their boat in.
Right.
And so then I got headlights shining in my eyes. I'm trying to get the thing backed in. So I get the trailer back in and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna drive it on. So I go to drive it on and then the boat got all crooked.
Yep.
So then I'm trying to tell her, I was like, hop in the truck, back it up a little bit, and I'll grab the wheel well and pull it over.
Yeah.
So she backs up, and then I'm holding it, and I'm saying, okay, you're good, you're good. Well, with my diesel running, the 4
Oh
other
my
trucks
Lord.
at the access running, the people sitting there having happy hour.
Her being a woman.
And
Yes.
so then I was like, you're good, you're good. And then like I let go to like, you're good. And then she pulled forward, and now the boat's even more crooked. And I'm just like, sorry, Kim. I was like, fuck it. I'm getting out of here. So then I pull the boat up, and as I was leaving, because like the guys at the access that were trying to get in, like they could tell like I was rushing.
Right.
They're getting
They
irritated.
could
Yeah.
see you were putting in an
Yeah.
effort to get moving. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the one guy turns around, and he had like this big old, he must have like a 22-foot ski. Like it was a big boat.
Yep.
He's turning around, he couldn't get turned around. So his front bumper is right next to a guy, and he just lays on the horn.
Awesome.
And he's like, get the fuck out of here.
right.
This isn't social hour. Get out of here. There's people trying to get. And then like those people are just got all pissy, and then they peel off. It was just a whole.
How?
And
They're
that,
oblivious, man.
like out of the whole night, like looking back, that probably is what irritated me more than anything, is because they just don't think of others. Like
Yeah,
that
right.
really pissed
Right.
me off. It's like people are trying, like, it's bad enough it's fishing opener. No one's perfect.
Right.
I'm with my wife, even though like we got like a system down, it's still not perfect. Like,
Yep.
it's just get the fuck out
Get
of there.
out of the way. Yeah. Drive up
So-
to the park and go have your celebration beers. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but-
It's just not the
Yeah,
place
don't
to do
go
it.
on the boat ramp. you
Yeah.
know?
It's not the place to do it if
No.
if there's nobody in line.
It's
Like,
just as bad as somebody that like hasn't touched their boat all
Mhm.
winter long, and they're backed in, and that's when they're gonna
fire
start
off.
figuring it
Yeah.
out,
Right.
right?
Right.
You know,
Yep.
where's this, and it's a half hour at the boat ramp. Anybody who's been to Grays Bay
Yep.
on Lake Minnetonka knows exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
about, and is having like flashbacks to that.
Right. No spark plugs.
It's like, come on,
The
can you
bad
please
gas,
move?
pumping seafoam
Sea
in the
foam in
tank.
there.
Mixing it up, you know.
Oh,
like-
get it every other year. It's the first pull. Every other year, it's the first pull.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it fires all the time. I don't know what happened.
Oh, the recoil snaps. That's always a good one.
Oh,
That's a great
they
one.
start taking the cover
Oh,
off.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yikes.
What was I gonna say? Oh, so now, long story long. When the boat's in the garage, Trevor's kind of making fun of me. I was like, if you feel like you're walking at like a 45-degree angle when you're standing in the boat because it's so crooked on the trailer, it's not that bad. That's the way I feel. It's just
I said flat out, I've driven back from where
Little
was it?
Falls.
Little Falls with a boat worse than that,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Because we've gone into like similar scenario. There's too many people at the launch, and it's just like, you know what, F it, let's just get
out of here. Right.
And I'm fairly certain that I've been in a truck with a buddy of mine that hits a divot in the road and ends up putting the boat like that.
Oh.
To begin with.
yeah.
Right.
And he looks in the mirror and goes, "Yeah, F it, let's just go."
Keep
You
going.
know?
Yep.
But and then I got a call Saturday night from old Trevor here.
Oh boy. What did he want to do?
Trevor, what did you give me a call for? You can explain this story. This is all your little thing here.
So how deep do we want to dive on this one? This one was good. Do we want to go through the whole thing, or do we want to let this progress?
Let her
Go
buy.
for it.
All right.
Whatever you
So,
want.
so let me preface it with, I have not missed a fishing opener in probably 10 years.
Okay.
It's like a vacation. It's a holiday,
Right.
right? I mean, my other coworkers are like, yeah, he's not going to be here for that day,
Right.
for that Saturday. And I work a decent amount of Saturdays. I work in an industry that's seasonal, and you know, we got to get the work done. But
Yep.
so you know, we work some Saturdays, but I have not worked a fishing opener in a while, and I didn't this time either. But I didn't go fishing, which is super weird because even my wife gave me a hard time for that. She goes, "You're not
not
fishing?" I
fishing?
said, "No, no. My mind is elsewhere right now." So it was super weird to not go fishing
Yep.
on fishing opener. And I've, last time we talked, I'm sitting in my living room and I counted off rods. I re-listened back to the podcast, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I did. And those same 9 rods are still sitting there. They have not moved. But I've got turkeys on the mind. It was just like, it was like something switched and I'm like, maybe I don't go fishing this weekend. And so, yeah, Saturday, I talked to my stepbrother who lives down in Southwest Metro.
Yep.
And he lives kind of out in the middle of nowhere a little bit, right? It's like a neighborhood clear in the middle of a farm field. It's like they just built the neighborhood there. That's probably the best way to describe it. And we had seen turkeys out there before, just from like being out and about in that area. So I just sent him a text saying, "You see any turkeys out there?" And I get a text back about 15 minutes later. Well, in fact, I have. And so he sent me a message saying, yeah, there's a handful of gobblers that are just to the east of us that I see every single day.
Oh, perfect.
And I'm like, all right, well, that's better than the intel I've come up with on my own thus far.
Yep.
So yeah, I hit up Mac and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he was like, "Well, it's fishing opener." I said, "Yeah, this is kind of weird for me too. I don't really know how this works. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something else this weekend." And, kind of just last minute, like, let's give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we met up early that morning, headed down there. I don't know, what time did we get down there?
We met at about 5:15.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Because that's when I started figuring out that some of this was going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. and so, like, I'm like, she's like, "What time do you want to meet?" I'm like, "Oh, I knew it was down in that area, like river.
Sure.
And with all the rain we had, I'm like, I don't know what the terrain is like. I don't know, like, let's wait till like sunrise a little bit so that we can see what's going on, so we're not walking into.
Yeah,
the
that
river,
makes sense.
you know,
And you don't know where the
creek.
roost might be, so
Yeah.
might as well.
So
see.
I'm like, let's meet at 5:15. I think we could shoot at 5:15, and I think you said it was like a 15-minute drive from where, so we would get there about 5:30.
Yeah.
So I'm driving, of course, my fashion, running late.
Weird.
I said I'll be about, what did I say, 5 or 10 minutes late.
Yeah.
Because I had to stop at Quick Trip because I needed to get me a donut. I needed
Yeah,
something
yeah.
to eat. Like
Yeah.
I needed a monster because I was up late fishing, and I had like a couple hours of sleep, and I'm like, I need a kick. So I stopped and got something. I texted him. I'm like, "Oh, I'm running late." He's like, "Oh, really? You too?" I'm like,
Dang copy.
I'm glad you admitted it.
yeah. So I pull up next to him where we met, and he's like, "This may not work." I'm like, "What? Why?" It was because of the what was the area? What was it called?
It is the Minnesota Valley, gosh, what is it? It's an
a
area
refuge.
close enough. Yeah, it's
It's
like
a
it's
huntable
it's
refuge.
it is. Yeah, it's U.S. Fish and Wildlife property.
Yep.
Right, and there's certain areas you can hunt, and certain areas that they've sectioned off saying no hunting.
Yep.
And what I didn't catch the night before was the non-toxic shot.
Ah, yes.
Right, so I'm sitting in Quick Trip's parking lot, and I'm reading, and I'm on U.S. Fish and Wildlife's website.
Yep.
And I get to the Minnesota River Valley, and I see this big bold deal saying non-toxic shot.
Yep.
And I'm like, whoopsies, right?
Mhm. Even for turkey.
Even
Yep.
for turkey, right?
Yep.
Because of the vicinity.
Yeah.
I assume it's due to the vicinity of the water.
Exactly.
Right. And so the night prior, like 10:30 that night, I pulled out and was just like, "Oh, I don't need these. I got turkey loads that I already patterned." Right.
Right.
We already talked about that.
Yep.
And so I took everything out of my bag. Everything.
Yeah.
And all
why,
I had.
why carry extra weight?
Exactly.
All the steel out. Yeah.
All the steel
Oh,
shot.
yeah.
And I had like 3 boxes of steel shot in there, right? And in Minnesota, you got to use like 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got to be smaller than 4 shot for turkeys. And so I had 5, I had 6, and I had 7 shot steel in my bag. And I took those out and set them aside and said, "I need this today," right? And I when I pack for hunting and fishing, it's like a squirrel preparing for winter as is.
Yep.
Right. So, and you can correct me if you remember, I'm putting my vest on. I'm like, what the heck is that? Sure enough, another box of shells. And so I think I ended up with like 3 boxes of turkey shot. And I'm like, I swear I only brought 5 rounds. Like, I don't know where this all came from, but none of it was steel shot.
Okay.
So I'm sure I had like this deer in the headlights look when he pulled up, and I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna work.
Right.
Because it's a half hour, 20 minutes back to my place to go grab a box of shells.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's not really in the cards.
And you can already see, you feel like you're already behind the 8 ball. Like, yep.
Yeah. So it's like, you know what? You got your bow. Screw it. Let's just go.
Yep.
Right. We can hit Fleet Farm out that way when they open. We can, you know, I'll hit Fleet Farm, whatever, you know, I'll double back this way, whatever it is.
Right.
We'll figure it out. Not the end of the world. Worst case scenario, they don't have anything. You know what? Still the experience.
Yeah, still hunting.
So we head out and left your truck there. And then there was some hesitation on that about a couple hours later, because like when the gas station attendant switches shifts and the next one goes, why has this truck been here?
Because it was in 30-minute parking.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I went in there. I was like, hey, I'm carpooling. Didn't say like I was going hunting, but I was
Sure.
like, oh, and he.
I hope he figured it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we were head to toe.
Yeah.
Right. He either thought we were going hunting, or he was like, didn't want to know.
But so Trevor left like our names and numbers and stuff. So I'm like, 30-minute parking. I don't want to get back. Whatever time we decide to get back, and my
Right.
truck is towed.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, so I was freaking out a little bit. We get down to this area we're hunting. I didn't even realize that this was his first turkey hunt ever.
Yeah.
So it's my third, his first.
Yep.
So you can imagine how the day was.
Yeah. And he's not even hunting to start.
No,
He's
it's
hunting.
me.
What a pal.
And I didn't bring any calls because I sucked at them. My mouth calls were terrible.
And like I said, I pack like a squirrel for
Yeah.
winter, so I had a slate call, I had a box call, and I had like 5 mouth calls.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, he had a ton. So we're walking out in this tall grass, like, okay. We stopped in this parking area and got dressed.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, I heard a gobble. And I'm like, okay, this is new.
all right.
This is new
Yeah.
to me.
Yep.
I haven't really heard a gobble besides that one very faintly. That
Right.
You and I. And it was in the field that we couldn't hunt. And I'm like, oh, did you hear that? And then as like I said that, all of a sudden we heard a gobble where we were going, like in the vicinity.
Nice.
And I'm
Fun.
like, okay, so now I know where we're going.
Well, I still think there was 2 birds in that,
Do you?
right? Because it seemed like there was
yeah,
one
yeah.
to the left and one to the right.
Okay.
Right, and the one to the right will come up here in a little bit. How awesome that was! But yeah, those other ones, you know, the first gobble we heard was on that non-huntable property.
And
Sure.
that was a couple hundred yards away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can tell it was out there.
Oh yeah, you
Yep.
couldn't. And then like all of a sudden you saw them start walking across the
Yeah.
field.
Oh, you could see them.
There
all
was
3.
3 toms.
Oh, fun.
Because the way the sun was coming up, they were just shining.
Yep, lit up.
So we're like, all right, well, we head to this grassy area, and
And we were feeling pretty good at that point.
Right.
It's like
Mhm.
like we're looking at 200 yards away, 3 times with
Yeah.
hens going. Yeah, he was right.
Right.
Right, there's birds
There's
here.
down
And we're
there.
feeling pretty confident right
Yeah.
now.
For sure.
And
So you got a blind with, right?
yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
Mac had his blind. Yeah.
so we get a little farther. We walk a couple hundred yards, kind of in the vicinity where we heard this tom. And I looked at him like, you got a mouth call. Like, I don't care. I'll get herpes. Like, whatever you
Well,
got.
not from me.
Yeah, like, whatever you got. Like, I
Not
don't,
from me.
I'm like, gee.
Trevor, we're learning all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff about you.
I'm like, I don't care. Like, you wash it. Like, I don't, like, whatever. And he's like, well, in fact, I just washed it. And he pulls out this mouth call. And what was the brand?
It's that's a Woodhaven.
Woodhaven.
Oh, geez, good one, dude.
So he
yeah.
gives me this Woodhaven call. I throw it in my mouth.
Yeah.
And it was just, like, perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I just started, I don't even know, was it clucking?
Yeah.
I'll start clucking, and I was just like, burp, 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 burp.
Yep.
And literally the first time I did it, all I heard was,
Uh-huh.
like 40 yards away. And we're just like, shit!
It wasn't 40 yards
No,
away.
it was close. It was close.
Because we were right on the wood line, right? It's this field and then a wood line.
Okay.
And that's what, you know, what I was saying, like, you know, the one to the right, it was like, wow, that thing's right there.
Jeez.
Like, he must have just dropped down from
Oh
that
my
tree.
God.
And where the wood line was, it's kind of like we're kind of really excited. I don't know if people can tell. But like, so the field, wood line, and not to keep interrupting you, but then
No,
like
no.
it's the steepest hill I've ever seen.
Okay,
like
goes
you
up or down?
Down.
Okay,
like you
down.
can't even
Gotcha.
walk down it. It is straight down.
Yep.
Like, we both considered, like, chasing this bird down this hill later.
Sure.
Like, let's go for it. And then we're, like, looking at each other going, we're gonna hate life if we try
If we
to do
go
something
down
like
there.
this.
Right.
It dead serious. It's at like 110 degrees.
Ooh,
It
okay,
was
yeah,
steep.
that's not good.
So we hear the gobble, and then we just get down and start like fast running, walking.
Yep.
About another 40, 50 yards.
It was like a cartoon because the thing gobbled back and we're both like, it was like the lights come on in a cartoon and we're both like, for anybody watching online, we're like, oh my God.
It's
Right?
everything you want to happen, but you didn't expect it to
Yeah.
happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we run over. I had your hen decoy,
Okay.
and I set out the hen decoy, and then we set up the blind, and we just. I don't know why that
Get
blind
covered.
sounds.
No, we had my hen decoy.
Oh, your
at that
hen
point.
decoy.
Yeah, we had left yours in the car.
Yeah.
At that
Okay.
point, yep.
So then we set up the blind, we get inside, and
We made so much noise setting that up. It was
Sure.
ridiculous.
that ground blind, I don't know why it was
The
so
freaking
freaking
Velcro?
low.
It may as well been made out of Velcro. I couldn't believe
Seriously,
that.
I know.
Like, and we
Frick,
didn't
man.
mess with the Velcro at all. But it's like it was
Just
a
like
whole
Popping it
Whole
open,
ordeal.
like when you and I went. You're
Yeah.
trying to pull it, and it's like boom,
Yeah.
boom.
It sounded like giant rubber bands.
Maybe the turkey thought it was drumming. Maybe he thought it was a tom. up
Yeah,
there
no
drumming.
kidding. So we get in the blind, and we're just. I got your chair.
Which one? The one that hurts your balls?
No,
The good
no,
one.
the other
Oh,
one.
the good one.
The good one. So I'm sitting in there, and Trevor just spent $15 on a chair the night before, and he forgot it at his house. So he's kneeling on the ground.
Yeah.
He's got like this vest thing where what is it considered? Like, is it a vest
It's a
or
turkey
like?
vest.
It's a turkey.
Well, yeah,
vest,
Seat belt
Yeah,
in
and
everything.
it's
Oh
got-
yeah.
and
And
it's
it's
got-
spared no expense.
Yeah.
And he's got the seat, so he's sitting on the ground.
Yep.
And we're on a little bit of a hill. He's like, this is kind of nice. He's got his gun. He's like, I don't know why I got my gun. Like,
No, my gun was in the truck.
oh, was it?
Yeah, my gun was still in the truck.
But like,
We left my shotgun in the car.
So you weren't even.
That was
checking
the
I
the
didn't
time.
even have
Right.
That was
because
the other-
yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
that was
anyway-
later on. That'll come up again.
yeah, fast forward, and then we start calling. He's got
Yep.
the slate and he's got a mouth call, and I'm doing the mouth call. And those turkeys now are probably 600 yards away from
Okay.
where we walked from the parking lot, and they can hear us, and they're going crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Losing.
like, it was so cool to hear that many birds gobbling. And then the one next to us, which I should have known, but I forgot / didn't really think about it, is when they get inside 100 yards, they don't really gobble.
Yeah, they're not usually as vocal.
So then all of a sudden, like, he's not making noise. And we're like, what the heck? So then all of a sudden I want to be really loud.
Yep.
And I just go full bore, and then he starts gobbling again.
And it was loud.
He's like, oh, he likes that. And then he hits the slate call, and then that was loud.
Yep.
And he starts gobbling. It's like, okay, he likes it loud. Like,
Sure.
so we waited around for probably an hour just calling. And we were
we
calling,
probably overcalled.
like,
Okay.
we were
Got
calling
excited.
like
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
every like
When you're
3
getting
minutes.
responses, it's hard
Yeah,
not to
every-
respond back.
Like, yeah, every 3 minutes we're just
Yeah.
laying Hail Marys.
Yep.
And then we're like, okay, let's just hold off. I think it was like a 7:45.
Yeah.
And we didn't hear anything from the turkey, and I'm like, we're kind of looking, but we're not hearing anything. So I'm like, well,
I bet you we watched those other gobblers across the road for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because we watched them until
They were just feeding and going
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
and forth.
and they started getting close, and we're like, well, maybe like
yeah,
for
absolutely.
And so I'm like, well, you got all the intel on here. It's your first hunt. Like, we need to get you shells, because if something comes in, like,
Sure.
I want you to shoot it because you did all this
Right.
and set it up. So then I'm like, let's sneak out of here. And we'll go to Fleet Farm, get what we need, and we'll come back and get back in the blind. And hopefully, he's still out around. So we get out the car, didn't hear nothing. Go to Fleet Farm. He found shells. I bought. I should have got it. I got a new call.
Oh yeah.
It's this little box thing.
Yeah, with like a
Compressor.
Yeah, you just
The
press
little
it.
presser?
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing is freaking cool. It sounds so good. Like,
Yep.
And then he bought a new decoy, which is
The funky chicken.
the funky
The
chicken.
funky chicken. It's
It's-
a scrawny little Jake that stands super tall. I don't know.
Just an ugly little Jake.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's still in my trunk. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
Supposedly, like, they come beat the hell out of it because it looks like a weak turkey.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's dying. Let's
Yeah.
get him.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it looks like an easy target.
Sure.
You know.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I found a box of like number 4 heavy shot like $40 for a box of duck rounds, but that's all they have.
Right.
So it's this or it's enjoy the view.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's it. So it's like, you know what, screw it.
Yep.
We came down here. I'll use them this fall.
Sure.
Whatever.
Right.
And yeah.
So then we're there, and I'm like, well, I got your Woodhaven, and I actually can use it. So I went and I just like, oh, you like this one? Well, I'm gonna buy it for you. I'm taking your old one.
And let me say something on the Woodhavens, because when I first started this, like I've bought like some other calls like Turkey Tom and Strut and Phelps, and I do like the Phelps, I will say that, but I sucked at calling. Like,
sure.
I could not figure it out. And I bought the cheap calls first because I'm like, oh, let's see.
Yeah.
But like the first time that I tried a Woodhaven, it was so much easier. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm buying Woodhaven now. And the reason I bought that Woodhaven, and when we touched on it last time, like I went to Cabela's, like, oh, I'm gonna get a few things, and then the register rings up like $400. And you're like, what did I buy?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had met this guy named Ben, and literally I'm just standing there in the aisle of Cabela's, like a doe in lights. And this guy's like literally looking at everything, and I'm like, hey, awkward, but do you do a bunch of turkey hunting? He goes, yeah. I ended up chatting with this dude for like 45 minutes.
Nice.
And I'm like, I am absolutely new to this. I just started duck hunting last year. I pheasant hunted for the last 2 years, but I know absolutely nothing about turkey hunting. If you had to pick one, what would it be? And he hands me this Woodhaven, and he goes, if I had to pick one, that up here, that's what I'd take, and that's the one that you got.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
try this one.
It's red. I can't remember. It's a Woodhaven like Red Demon or Red something.
Yep.
But it's all white.
Shields.
It's all white.
It's all white, but then the reed is red.
The reed is red.
Yeah.
Sure.
And he was like, it should be pretty easy for a beginner to pick up, and this one will treat you well.
Nice.
And I've now bought like 4 Woodhaven calls.
Yeah.
And like you heard what I sounded like when we went.
Sounded great.
No, when I went with you.
Oh, when you went with me.
Yeah, and I had and I can't remember what brand of mouth call you had because I had the same.
Those
one.
are Turkey Toms.
Yeah, and
I've got one of those.
I couldn't
It's fine.
I couldn't get it to fit in my mouth right, and when I put his call in my mouth, it was just like. It was perfect. Right. Yeah, if it did, it felt good. Right. It felt good with having his call in my mouth, and it sounded good too. Like obviously yourself.
The video you sent me, it sounded great.
Yeah, like you're critical on yourself, so like I'm just like, oh, I think this sounds bad, and then he's like, dude, that sounds really good, and I'm like, well, my confidence. I just kept going.
Exactly.
But I was very surprised.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
So I don't think I'll buy anything but that Woodhaven.
That's. A lot of duck calls are like this, not all of them, but you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Right? So
sure.
Yeah, it's always hard to shell out money for a diaphragm call that you've never used a diaphragm call before. So it is good to start with a cheap just to like get some of the mechanics down to make noise with it.
Yeah.
But for sure you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
As far as range of sounds you can do and stuff like that. So
well, the coolest part about them is like, these mouth calls for turkey. Like the Woodhaven, it's a nice call. You're gonna spend like $11 to $15 on it. Right. I mean, walk in and find an expensive duck call, and it's like, no thanks.
Oh yeah.
Where's the duck commander? Right. I'm like, and I don't have super expensive duck calls by any means. I mean, I've got some that I do okay with, but like I've seen duck calls in $200, $300, $400. I was at the game fair last year, and I'm like, this costs how much?
Yeah.
Like,
not hard to do.
I'm gonna put this back before I break it, fine sir. But I mean, these turkey calls, like you get different sounds, different cuts, different things like that, and it's like a $10 investment.
Yes.
Right. So like my wife the other day, I'm putting stuff away, and she goes, "How many of those do you have?" My response was not the number I had. The response was, "Don't worry, they're a lot cheaper than duck calls."
Yeah.
Well, and he had it was a raspy hen.
Yeah.
And like
old raspy hen.
Like you can actually hear.
I know. How do
difference,
they do that? Right?
Because.
It's the difference.
It was
the
reed's cut and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the length of it, how it's cut. It's just amazing that somebody can figure that out, press it in that material, and have it work.
And cut the latex.
Yeah.
Right. And I have no idea.
Yeah, it sounded like a turkey that's like been smoking in a package.
Yeah.
Hey, big boy.
Like, like I'm laying in like the young, like, oh, hey, come get me, and then all of a sudden he's like, hello, over here.
Well, and that Phelps call is the same way.
Yep.
And it just had a different tone to it.
It's cool.
And the turkey tom and the strut, like I've got one or two in my car because we have some turkeys at my office that I just like to mess with. That's the picture I sent you, that one when I told you why don't you just come shoot this one? Because it's in the middle of my parking lot as I'm trying to move my fleet out of the warehouse, and it just will not get out of the way. And it'll gobble at me just from shutting my car door in the morning, because I'm usually the first one there.
Sure.
And it's just like, so I'll keep one in my car just to mess with them because they roost out back.
Mm-hmm.
But that Phelps call, I was like, that was one of the early ones too, where I'm like, I don't know how to do this, but this makes it pretty easy.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but those Woodhavens.
And
legit,
and there's other differences, like, I don't know if turkey toms are narrower than like Woodhavens, but like the way they fit your pallet.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes a cheaper call works better for some guys because the way they build them might fit better on your pallet and let you have that airflow control, you know? So.
And do the turkey toms have like the plastic thing on top?
They might have some that do, but none of the ones I've ever
Well, the
bought.
one I had like a plastic thing that went on the top of my mouth. Maybe that's Primo.
Primos has
that.
a lot like that.
Yeah,
Good for
and it hurt
first-timers.
hurt my mouth, like the top. But this one, it just forms perfect right on the
Nice.
top.
Well, see, and that was the thing when I first started, because it's like athletic tape that they're made out of, right?
Yep.
And like, I probably watched like 10 YouTube videos of people like, oh, you can cut them. And I'm like, I don't want to cut them. I'm going to damage them.
Right.
And then like I finally cut one and it fit so much better and I wasn't like gagging on it.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm cutting all mine now.
Right.
You know, so they're all cut now because they just fit so much better.
Right.
And I think that was part of the issue for me when I first started was, they were super wide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it just didn't fit my mouth right.
Sure.
And so cutting just a little bit at that athletic tape off, and I bet you I trimmed them 3 or 4 times a piece before it was like, all right, this feels that much better.
You don't want to take too much off.
No, exactly, yeah. So it was very small increments at each time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it made a huge difference because it went from I'm done doing this because I suck at it, and this doesn't work, to damn, I can actually do this.
The first time I bought diaphragm calls, I want to say an elk one, and I couldn't do it. I was like, oh, I must be one of those narrow palate guys. Like, it's not gonna work. Like, it can't be me. So I threw it away. And then I got a turkey call, and same thing. I drove around for a week. It seemed like choking on it, gagging. Like, oh man, my mouth's swelling up from latex poisoning or something. And then one day I just happened to get it to go, and I was like, oh,
that's how you do it.
Yeah. I didn't know if I was putting my mouth the right direction the other time. But once you make a sound, you're like, okay.
I get it.
Yep. And then it takes off from there. So.
Yeah. He spent all that time and trimming them up, and then I just throw it in my mouth, and I'm like, oh, I'm keeping it. And I trimmed that. It's just athletic tape. I'm like, well, thanks. It makes it a lot easier. So then we, going back to the story, so then we go to Fleet Farm. You get your trickling Jake or whatever, and your gun shot.
My duck loads.
And I get my new call, and we get back to the car, and we start walking out. And
you're going back to your blind?
Yeah, so we left the blind out there, and then we tucked the hen in there, and then we grabbed the other hen. Yep.
So I grabbed your hen decoy. He grabbed his new Jake decoy. And we're on our way back out, and we make it maybe 10 feet into the trail, and I'm like, fuck. He's like, what? The tom is right, probably 20 yards from the blind.
No.
Just strutting.
Absolutely.
Just strutting.
Full.
So we're just like, okay. Well, he's got his gun now. So I'm like, well, let's go this long way. And I got my Huntworth on. And you had turkey camel. What brand did you have?
So it's what is it? It's like the pants were like Cabela's, and then like the jacket was redhead, but it was the same camo pattern.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was Strata, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
It seemed decent enough to, fit in some browns.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was the same camo pattern. But yeah, like they were different brands, just same deal. It worked out pretty slick, and it matched my vest. Which was super
solid.
cool, right?
So,
Because that's what counts.
Yeah, that's what counts.
Hell yeah.
So he had like his face mask and his hood, and I had all our Huntworth stuff that we got.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, I feel pretty confident that like we have good camouflage on. We're blending in really well with this grass. It's like CRP grass. So I'm like, let's go like this long way all the way around. And there's a little peninsula where the trail comes out, and the tom was just to the right of that.
Okay.
Like if we can get back and sneak back behind there, and if he's still hanging around, I'm like, maybe we can call him over within range for him
Yeah,
to
pop
be
'em with
sitting
the gun.
waiting with the gun.
Yep.
And pop him.
And there was good cover too with this little point that comes out with the trees.
Nice.
And so we both looked at it and went, all right, he might have busted us. He did.
We don't know that.
Oh man, I feel
Did you
it
see
in
him
my
run?
heart.
No.
He didn't run. He didn't like turn tail and run.
Sure.
But it was as we're walking in, you're like, the way I'm looking down at the ground, like kicking myself mentally for not having steel shot because now I'm pissed because now we just
Had you been in the blind
Yeah,
and all
we
that
would've
stuff,
had
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, we
either
could've-
You'd
way.
think
Yeah.
maybe you would have started calling too much
That's
or
just-
something,
yeah,
but
that's-
Yeah, we absolutely could have sat there and just ripped calls for the next 45 minutes, and he would have been like, "I'm not stupid."
right, that chick
Right.
won't shut up. I don't know. Stage 5 clinger. I don't know over there. Yeah.
So we start making our way down this field, and we get halfway, 3/4 of the way, and all of a sudden he's like, "Mac," I'm like, "What?" His brand new decoy, the stand fell, like it popped out of the decoy. He's like,
Stick.
Oh no!
I don't have the stand.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay. He's like, well, you keep going. I'm gonna backtrack. So I'm like, all right. He's like, if you can get a shot, get a shot. And I'm
Yep.
like, okay. So I start working forward or whatever, and I'm like, just keep an eye on me. If I get down,
Mhm.
then like you get down.
Yep.
And then I make my way over, didn't see him, hop in the blind. I see him way over by like where the car is.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, he's coming back. He's still being quiet. He's like, it fell out right next to the car.
Oh.
I could have damn near threw it and hit the car.
Absolutely, because it's just this, the stake that
Plugs into the body or whatever.
essentially, yeah. I mean, there's two metal pieces. One goes through the body of the Jake. You use a wing nut to hold it in, and then the bottom piece that goes into the ground just kind of jams into it, and then you turn it.
Oh sure.
And it's like,
quarter lock on a.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing, it's like an eighth of an inch that holds it into place.
Yeah.
And when we first started walking, I was holding it by the stake.
Okay.
I have no clue what made me switch up and hold it by the head of the Jake.
Sure.
But at some point, I mean, we backed out and went around the rest of the other side of the field. Yeah, it was 3/4 of the way back to the car. Right. So I see it, thankfully, right? It's sticking out. And
Yep.
I'm like, God. All right. And the whole time I'm like looking back over my shoulder, like hoping like he's like laying down,
Sure.
because then I know something's up.
Yeah.
And nope, he's all the way back to the blind. So I still took the long way to the blind.
Okay.
Kind of crept along. And what I figured was if that Tom boogied into just that tree line, if he's coming back this way, maybe I can intercept him. That did not happen.
Sure. Sure.
I made it all the way back to the blind, and I was just kicking myself the whole time because I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. Oh well,
Yeah.
it happens.
So
then we sat in the blind we got back at the blind by
8:30, 8:45.
Yeah. So then
Nice.
we ended up sitting in the blind till almost noon.
Okay. Could you see those other turkeys way off in the distance anymore? or no?
We could see them. We saw was it a hen on the hill,
Yeah,
and then they went to whatever ravine, and then they were gone.
it was a little bit hilly, so they'd come up and down,
Sure.
and they were just kind of feeding around.
Yep.
And it almost seemed like one of them would stay on the little bit of a hill, because when we're sitting down, you really can't see it. But one of them would be on that little bit of a hill the whole time.
Okay.
Obviously, the lookout, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And they knew they knew something was across.
If
that
you
other
can see
field.
them, they could see you.
Yeah,
That's-
absolutely.
That's the problem, right? So.
So we hung out till about noon. We were like, all right, well, we're down here, and do we just stay all day, or do we go home? And it's like, well, I got nothing going on, so I texted the wife. I said, do I need to be home for anything? She's like, no. I'm like, well, I'm gonna stay down
Yeah,
here.
keep
Like,
trying.
as long as we're here, we might as well keep trying. So we went and ate some lunch, came back, talked to his brother a little bit, just kind of chit-chatting about hunting for the most part. And then we went back out and we're trying to make a game plan for the evening hunt,
Okay.
afternoon, evening. And we had like,
Can I pause you for 1 second?
yeah.
Taco Bell, open your damn drive. Open your. Let's be real here, okay? Not everybody wants to go through the drive.
Mhm.
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
So we went to McDonald's, and that was the worst decision ever.
Which I will say the service there is impeccable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I mean, somebody was walking around, and the gal that was in there did not deserve to get yelled at by that couple
The old guy.
because they forgot to order fries.
She
She was super nice,
Yep.
right? And like, it's McDonald's. Like, I'm like, we finish eating, and I go to grab my tray, and this lady walks over and grabs it and says, "Do you want?" And she even asked me if I wanted her to refill my Coke, and I'm like, "No, I can get it."
Yeah.
Like,
Awesome.
I was like, "Holy cow!" Like, all right, cool. But Taco Bell, open your lobby.
Right.
Come on,
Hacks.
let's go.
Hacks.
Right?
Yeah. I was really looking forward to it.
You know why they don't? Because Taco Bell, they don't want you to get in there and use their bathroom.
Dude,
They're
that's-
gonna blow their
that's the
bathroom
thing
up.
Over the years of my body developing into what I am now, is that Taco Bell does not affect me
Yeah.
like it used to. McDonald's, on the other hand,
You're not calibrated for
oh,
McDonald's?
No, because I ate way too much because it's cheap.
What'd you get, a quarter pounder?
Oh no, I got a Big Mac.
Okay, oh, I didn't have one of those.
So I got
Probably
a Big
Oh.
Mac and like fries. Which
Yep.
There's not as many fries, and the Big Mac's not as big as it used to be.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden I look up and I see McChicken, and I'm like, oh okay, buy one get one for like $1. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll take two of those. So I got a Big Mac and two McChickens.
Holy
And I was like,
frick.
oh,
Wow.
I'm like,
That's impressive. I would have. So you went out hunting late that afternoon and took a nap? Like, yeah.
very little, very little.
I think we both did at one point. It was
Yeah.
just like, which we'll get to the whole chair
Yeah, we'll
because
get
I'm
to-
still kicking myself for that.
Oh my god.
So, well, let me back up. So the whole thing on the chair, I left it sitting in my car. I took
Sure.
my wife's SUV, right?
Yep.
Because I'm not throwing it. I was very
Turkey.
ambitious.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna
not.
get one.
I'm not throwing a dead turkey in the back of my sedan,
Sure.
right? So,
Yeah.
but I will throw it in the back of my wife's SUV.
Right.
Like, let's be real. So of course, now I have, and you were talking about the little 3-legged chair, right?
Yeah.
And how it just crushes your nuts. So I have one of those made by Eskimo, right, for ice fishing,
Mhm.
and I 100% agree. But Saturday afternoon, I think I was calling you
yeah.
when I was coming back from Shields. I went out and bought this shameless plug here, this Sawyer's permethrin.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the group, there's a Facebook group that I've kind of just joined like in the last year. It's like Minnesota turkey hunters. Everyone talks about this Sawyer's permethrin,
Okay.
and I'm like, all right, cool, it's bug spray, whatever. I'll just get off. So I had some, but literally I knew we were gonna be laying in the grass.
Sure.
So Saturday afternoon, I was like, screw it, I'm going. Shields had it in Eden Prairie. And like I looked at like hardware stores around me in Long Lake, and nobody really had it.
Mhm.
The only like permethrin they had was like spray on your horse, your dog, your cat, stuff
Sure.
like that, something like that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna run to EP. So run to EP, get this thing at Sawyer's, and then I was like looking at blinds, and they happen to have like this like little camp chair that folds out, this little triangle, and I sat on it. I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. Yeah,
Mhm.
that'll work. So I pay $15 for this chair and leave it sitting on the front seat.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
So that's what that was about.
Yeah.
And this is- so then when when we meet up in St. Bonnie, one of the first things I say is, hey, did you happen to bring that extra chair you were talking about? He goes,
Yeah.
well, no, you told me you bought one. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a dumbass. And I left it sitting on the front seat of my car. At that point, I probably should have gone, maybe I should go back and get my
Get the chair.
Got
and
the chair and the
yeah.
ammo.
Yeah.
And maybe we just hunt the Northwest this today.
Yeah.
If we're already going back that way. But-
So anyway, so then we're going to make a game plan. We couldn't decide if we wanted to go back into where we were because we knew there was a tom there.
Sure.
Otherwise, down the hill, like probably a half mile from where we were, there's a big area. That's like oak trees and all that. So we're like,
well, and we went back in. We were like, oh, let's go down into the bottomland and see what we can do. And we got like, I don't know, 200 feet down the hill. And we're looking around going, there's probably no way you're going to get a shot off with your bow.
mhm.
And if I get one with my shotgun, it's going to be a Hail Mary.
Oh.
It was,
okay.
it was so thick.
thick.
Oh,
It
thick.
was just
Sure.
so thick.
So like, no wonder it took this bird that long to find that.
Work its
Yeah.
way through
Yeah,
there. And
like-
sure.
It was just ridiculous. We're like looking at this hill going, if we got to drag something up this hill,
Right.
especially in dark,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be crazy.
Yeah.
And so then we decided we're gonna go to the northwest side of where we were. And we're walking around and there's all these big oak trees. Maybe you can fill us in. The oak trees would be a good roosting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
what we figured,
That's what we thought. So we're walking. There's like this little peninsula and it was all thicket and it's kind of like a hill. I'm like, okay, this is like good area here.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, you see that? And I think I sent you a video. All of a sudden there's a snake.
Yeah.
That's
bull
right.
snake or
A
something?
bull snake. The thing
Yeah.
was like 4 feet long.
Oh, yeah.
And this guy is terrified of snakes, but he's freaking with the thing the whole time. And then it starts like coming at us.
I
I'm
just
like,
wanted a good picture. I'm not terrified of snakes. I just don't like them.
oh, meanwhile, when you were trying to stalk and he forgot his chair, he's like, dude, there's a gardener snake back there. I almost just screamed bloody.
Yeah. As I was going back to look for the steak for the Jake, it scared the heck out of me.
Yeah, but like I don't mind snakes at all. But if I lift something up and there's one under it, I'll be like, whoop! Like it'll startle me.
Like I step on a twig and suddenly,
A
snake,
snake,
jumps out. Yeah, that startled me.
This snake was so big.
That's cool.
And that thing covered some ground quick.
It was fast.
Like, I was like, all right, we're not setting up.
There was a report north of Big Lake of a bull snake that was hit on the road and it measured 6.5 feet.
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
they get big. They get really big.
that thing was.
This thing was all of 4.5.
It was,
least
Woo,
four.
that's a big.
it was
That's
a big snake.
For us up here in Minnesota. That's a big snake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we went down, and then there's a bunch of oak trees that the Forest Service, they like cut them to kill them.
Yep.
And a bunch of them were like tipped over. So there's a big thing of brush. I'm like, this would be a good spot for the ground blind. Kind of similar. Oak trees around us, thicket on the end. I'm like, this is a good spot to sit. So we set up camp there, put the decoys out. Meanwhile, freaking sun decided to crank up the heat in that blind.
Oh,
It had
God.
to
Oh,
be
yeah.
100 degrees.
Yep.
Oh, it got
Oh
warm.
my
Yep.
God, was it freaking hot.
There's
Like
a
at
couple-
one point, I'm like standing up because my knees are just like buckling
Right.
because I'm kneeling on all these buckthorns and rocks and stuff. And it's like you stand up and it's like 20 degrees warmer
Yes.
standing up than
Oh,
it is
yep.
sitting down.
So we got like the blind that I got from my dad got him on K-Bid. You can unzip the back doors and you can literally the back side, the one a hub, flips open. So like we got the whole back open, just trying to get a breeze through there.
Just a
because
little
it's
bit.
Just
so
sweating out McDonald's.
it's so
yeah.
hot. So we're kind of just sitting in there and we're both on TikTok, just like it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
Like the volume's up, you can barely hear it.
Yeah.
I can hear his, you can hear like, watching videos, having a good time. And all of a sudden I hear something and I'm like, well, maybe I'll just give a call. Like just Hail Mary. So I call and I hear a twig snap. I'm like, what? And I literally, like the back of the blind's open and I'm sitting in the chair and I look back and there's a guy, just a random dude, like 10 feet from the blind.
What?
And like Trevor had a good idea. Like we got all these oaks.
Well, hold on. Was this guy in camo?
No.
Every
So-
bird watcher and their brother wanted to walk 10 feet from our blind.
Yeah,
What?
thinking the decoys were real.
Yeah.
So like he had a good idea. We took a bunch of oak trees and stuffed it over the blind.
Yeah, like brushed it in.
And brushed it in, and it looked freaking nice. But he had no clue we were there.
What the frick?
No clue.
No idea.
And he's
And
sitting there.
It's not like we covered the blind.
Sure,
right? We
no.
took a few oak
I
branches
don't
on
care
each
if you
side.
did. Like
Yeah.
you should be able to see those blinds
Like
from
we
that close.
we stuck out like a sore thumb, right?
Right.
The whole idea with the oak branches is like break it up a little,
Yeah.
bit, right?
Yeah.
And we still had a clear shooting lane, the whole nine. And then so at this point I have ammo, right? So my shotgun is sticking out the front of
the
the
barrel.
Oh
sitting up
my
front.
God.
So he's to my right. and
No, I'm on the left.
No.
Oh,
the,
dude's
the,
to your
the,
right.
the
yeah.
guy we
Yeah.
nicknamed him Todd.
We did.
We
Yep.
nicknamed him Todd.
Turkey time.
Is sitting just to my right, and he's standing there, and this guy's all tatted up, like he's got to be in like his 50s. And I'm like, dude, there's a dude sitting there, and he's like, what?
Yeah, I'm like BS.
So
There's
then
no
I
way.
want to believe
He
it.
stands up and looks out the window, and he's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah. So then I start doing like little.
What was the guy doing?
Just he was whistling at the
Yeah.
decoys, like he thought they were real. So he
What?
Yeah.
Dead serious. Like, and I heard him whistling, and I'm like, what the heck is that noise? Because like 20 minutes earlier, I asked Mac, what the heck is that noise? And it's what is it? A brown cowbird makes like the sound of a water droplet.
Okay.
It's like bloop, bloop. And I'm like, what is this noise? So I just got done googling what makes that noise,
Yep.
and now I'm like, what the heck is whistling? And sure enough, here's Todd, 10 yards from my decoys, to our right,
And he's like,
whistling and waving his hands, and cannot figure out why these
Won't
turkeys,
they're not
birds
moving.
these
Yeah.
quote unquote turkeys are just staring a hole in the side of his head.
Wow.
he's sitting there just like at this point in my brain, I'm like, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, you think it's a dog? Like, is he gonna they're gonna
Right?
walk up to you and be like, "Rah, rah, rah," like
Yeah.
like what do you
If there were real turkeys and they flew away, would he be like,
So
yay?
we're in the blind, 10 feet away from this guy, and we are dying laughing.
Dying.
I cannot believe this is happening.
I got my hand over my mouth. I'm
And
like,
Trevor, he looks over at me and he starts to say something and he starts laughing. And all of a sudden the guy, I think he heard us.
he must have.
And he
figured it
like
out.
looked over at us and then he went back like another 10 feet away from us. And then he stopped again and started whistling at him. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And then,
At this point, he's like dead even with where the blind is open.
yeah.
You
So
can't
weird.
miss it.
Yeah.
So weird.
So Trevor looks at me, he's like, I might shoot my new decoy. Yeah. Like as a joke, he's like, I just want to shoot the decoy just to freak him out.
Dude, can you imagine?
Oh,
that's
that's why
awesome.
I texted you. I'm like, I'll text Seth and be like, Trevor, like, do you care? Because yours was air.
Yeah,
You
you
blow it up.
should have blown it away.
And I'm
dude.
like,
You should have
dude,
blown
what if
it
I
away.
just all of a sudden this guy's whistling and I just take the bow and put
Dude.
a rage right through the decoy and be like, got him!
Yeah, 100% should have done that. 100%.
It was so hilarious. And when we're talking about like we are laughing,
Mhm.
like I'm laying on the ground, holding hands over my mouth. Because the thought of shooting my decoy and then screaming, got him,
Right.
you know, and just having this
Hilarious.
guy just, what happened? You know, and
like the birdies.
And it's hilarious, but then like legal repercussions start creeping into your mind. You're like, all right, let's not do
Yeah,
that.
the guy probably have a drop of a heart attack.
Right, he's playing a dead body.
It's like, all right, we can't do that. But man, would that be funny?
Oh,
We
it'd be so
blow the
funny.
head off a decoy with somebody whistling at them, thinking they're real.
You would have
TV.
had to film it though with your phone.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I don't know how. Like I would have to have like your phone on
Yeah.
the decoy and the phone on the guy to get like what's going on.
So I've told that story now to like 4 people, right? Because again, this is my first turkey hunting
Sure.
experience. Like this is the first time I've been in a hunting blind. Duck, what? Yeah, I've
Sure.
been, duck blind boat, right? But like turkey hunting, this is the first time. And everybody has already told me, like, wait, you had gobblers gobble back at you at your first time. That's a pretty good win.
yeah, it's good.
But then I tell him, like, I told my father-in-law this story, and he started laughing. He goes, "You can't be serious." I said, "Tim,
Yeah.
I am dead serious." Like,
You guys
I
have a
almost-
picture of it. You
I-
text me the picture of the guy standing
The
there.
video of him.
Yeah,
whistling.
video. Yeah.
And I
What
thought
the
I saved
frick?
it and I didn't. And I was so mad.
And that's what I asked, because everyone who I told my wife, she goes, "Did you get a picture?" No, I was on the left and I was rolling around on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like a buddy of mine at work, he goes, "Did you take a picture?" And I'm like, "No, I wish I had one, because this is, I mean, you can't believe
You
it.
can't
It's so
make, you
silly.
can't make it up.
No.
So and it was kind of our fault. I didn't know this at the time, and he did, and he told me, and I kind of just spaced, and I must not have heard him, or I did hear him, and I wasn't paying attention. There was a walking path, like 20 yards from where we were sitting. So this guy was probably on the walking path, and at the right time,
Yes.
I hit the
You
call,
ripped that call.
and then he looks over, and there's Sneaky Jake and the hen sitting there, whatever it's called.
Sneaky Pete.
Whatever his new decoy
Funky
is.
Chicken.
The funky
Funky
chicken,
Chicken,
is
yeah.
sitting there all like looking like a cancer patient, and then your hen's looking all nice. And the guy's like, "Oh, hey, this thing looks sick," but so then that happened like 3 times. Where
What?
all of a sudden I'm looking out the blind, and here come some people.
Oh my
these,
gosh.
these people weren't even on the trail. Like they were like V-lining towards us, and it went through my head like, one of these times it's gonna be like these people that don't like hunting,
Right.
and they're just gonna sit here and just yell
Yes,
at us, and then
sure.
the cops are gonna get involved and be like, "You can't be here hunting," and be like, "Well, actually I can," and it was gonna ruin the whole day. In which, luckily,
Never
they
happened.
they didn't. That guy got the closest. Everyone else, what did you say, got like 50 yards, 40, 50 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I know somebody was out at like 75, because we had ranged certain things when
Sure.
we set up. Right, we had a range on this tree, we had a range on this tree, we had a range on this tree. But I'd say even more people. I mean, there was a group of 4 people with 2 dogs that walked by at one point. But I swear to goodness, like, it must have been National Bird Watching Day in that
Yeah.
Fish and Wildlife area, because.
Oh, beautiful weekend. Everybody's
it
out for a
was.
walk. Yeah.
Well, and let me, we got to jump back, because both Mac and I had the same thing, or the same thought, right? So it's fun to like talk about it, but like we said it in the blind, like, hey, they have the same right as we do.
Yeah.
Beat,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I just got cut
Oh.
off.
Fuck.
Oh no.
Oh, it's because the computer died.
Oh no.
It's because the computer's not plugged in.
Oh, that's okay.
It'll be just fine.
Is that still recording?
No, it's
No,
off.
that one lost power too.
Do you think it saved it?
Is that your mixer that you
Yeah.
were so happy with?
It should have saved it. I'm guessing it did, yes. If not, I'm so fucking mad.
Anybody watching on YouTube that can't hear us?
Oh
give
yeah,
us
we
a
got
second.
the volume from that.
Do we? I've got it muted.
You got that muted?
Yeah. Don't I? I think I do. I can't remember. Let me check.
Maybe not then.
Oh no, it's not muted. We're good.
Oh, we have that volume. Plus, it usually saves actually when it does that.
Is this a common occurrence?
No, this ain't actually. I was just stupid. I saw the low battery and I didn't put two and two together that I had it hooked into the computer.
Oh, that's what that pop-up
Yeah.
was. Oh, see,
Oh, my
'cause I-
TV's got a low battery.
For some reason I'm like, oh, that don't matter, like it's.
I saw you clear that notification. I'm like,
Yeah.
"What's that for?"
I was like, oh, that's not a big deal, and then I forgot. Oh yeah, because I got it hooked into the fucking computer.
Okay.
We're on again.
So hold on. We're good.
Okay.
Just lean in a little bit closer when you're talking.
All right. Yeah, I adjusted it a little.
Yeah, do
That,
something better.
that opening I was like this. So.
Yeah,
No,
so we
so-
had a little hiccup there.
It's not recording.
No.
You don't even have to. I can edit out. Just say they had the same right we did.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they had the same right to be there as we did.
Sure.
So we talk about it this way, right? There was irritations in our hunt, but look, it's public land.
Yeah, exactly.
That comes with
It's
the
half
deal.
the fun.
Yeah.
And it was just funny because it's like, wrong ammo. It was
Wrong ammo,
my
no
chair.
seat, lost my rod. Friggin' Taco Bell lobby wasn't open.
I'll tell you what, I was more irritated about not being able to get like a chili cheese burrito than I was about not having a non-toxic shot. Because I knew that we could still shoot a bird with
Right.
a max bow.
Yep.
But I was not getting the chili cheese.
That's true.
That was
True.
just like,
Absolutely.
and a quarter pounder with cheese is pretty good.
Yeah, but no.
For
no
what it is,
burrito.
yeah.
And I didn't get a McChicken. I went 10-year-old on the bit, and I definitely went chicken nuggets.
Oh yeah.
Chicken nuggets
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. But we ended up staying out there till the very last. It was like 9:06.
9:06 on the dot.
Is when we could, was the last shooting. So then we packed up and
Called it a day.
called it, and then drove an hour home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fun day, man. Fun first hunt. A lot of different stories come out of
Yeah,
one day
it
of
was.
hunting like that,
It was actually because when he called me, and I knew I was going fishing, because he called me before we went out to Pulaski, Mariah and I.
Yep.
And I'm like, God, I could definitely be like, no, I'm good. Like I'm going, fishing tonight. Tomorrow I'll sleep in, whatever.
Yep.
And all I heard was a voice in the back of my head saying, "Frick it, do it."
Do it.
Make the memory. So I was like,
Yeah, dude.
I talked to her and she's like, yeah, go for it. And then I told him, like, I'm in. I'm like, this is gonna be, if we shoot something, like this is gonna be epic. Like, I got some intel on this. We go down there, and if that Tom would have came in and boom, it's like
Can you imagine? If
it would have been
all
it'd have been so awesome. His first turkey hunt, my third. I could have gave you crap for shooting a turkey before.
clicked? Yeah. Gladly.
But no, it was a lot of fun. And then fast forward to Tuesday. I was leaving work, and if people haven't seen the YouTube video yet, go back. Scott made a little video. So on Tuesday, I was leaving work, and my private property is pretty close. So I'm driving, and all of a sudden, on the neighbor's property, he's got a food plot, and I just see a Tom sitting there all strutting. So I'm like, all right, here we go. I text her and say, hey, there's a Tom next to my property. I'm going to run home, feed the dog, let her out, put my stuff on, and then I'm going to go hunting. She's like, I'm like, it's worth a shot. And she goes, absolutely, go get him.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. I sneak in, and we're in the vicinity of where this Tom was. I was probably 80 yards. So I set up the ground blind, set up the 2 hen decoys that Seth let me borrow that we had in the blind out there previously. And I start calling. Nothing's going by, and then I got out there probably 6, and then I'd say probably 8 o'clock. I see a little bit of movement, and I'm like, oh, okay. And here comes a hen pops out, and I'm like, okay, so there's turkeys here. Like, I know there is, and now I see one. And it was really weird because this hen came out, and then about 5 minutes later, 3 jakes pop out, and one's like starting like half strut, like his he's starting to his feathers are starting to get big,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I'm like, oh, sweet, like last thing I want to do, but like I gotta take a video of this.
Yeah.
So
Is that the video you sent me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I take this video, and this Tom is walking, and it's like you said, they sent that hen out first.
Yeah.
Because she made this big loop to the right where I lost sight of her, and then she popped up about 5 yards because the decoy was set at 10.
Right.
5 yards, and she's just walking around the decoys, and they're staying back, and I'm like, just don't move. So I got the camera, I'm holding it, and I'm not moving, and they kept coming closer and closer, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And then I'm going through my head like the process. Okay, got the rangefinder. It's sitting over here. I'm gonna wait until
I gotta
like
buy one of those.
yeah. That's another thing is that was the first time when we went out down to hunt. He's never used a rangefinder.
Never.
Oh, really?
Never.
He's like, how do I
Okay,
use
awesome.
this? And I clicked it. He's like, this thing is freaking cool. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, sweet.
That was the funniest part about that. I'm like, how did I use this? And he goes, well, there's a button on there, and you look through it, and then you press the button.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, sweet, awesome.
Dude, you should have told him something crazy like when you hit the button, you gotta twist your head to the side.
You gotta
So
go-
he's like twitching.
You gotta make the turkey sound.
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
Use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that clever. But
If you tilt your head to the right, it says yard. To the left, it says rod.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
And he's like, oh, where'd you get this? How much was it? And I'm like, well, I got it at Walmart. It was like, it's a Halo 450. I'm like, it's like $80.
Yep.
I'm like, you don't need something super expensive. I mean, obviously, if you're going hunting out west, you got to range something from a long line.
Right, right.
Like the one I have,
We're
is
talking
perfect.
100 yards or closer.
Yeah, I don't even remember what's the farthest we ranged was.
78 yards, I think.
Yeah,
No, we tried ranging
The far turkeys.
And yeah, it wouldn't even pick it.
wouldn't even pick them up, but like, I mean,
I
I
think it went
know
out to like 200 yards.
200 yards or
Yeah.
something
Nice.
like that, yeah.
So then I was waiting for the jakes to come closer.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden the hens started going away, and then the jakes literally just took a hard left, and they started walking. Grab the rangefinder, and it's 30 yards. And I'm like, oh, like there's a lot of like with that hen, she's still in the area. 2 more jakes behind him.
Yep.
The one I wanted. I'm like, there's a lot of like if I try to move at all, like, so I'm trying to go through, and then I'm like 30 yards. I don't know. Like I'm confident with my bow. I haven't shot as much as probably I should have.
Sure.
And I'm like, and it wasn't like like there's tall grass between me and him, and I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable, so I let him go. Like
Okay.
30 yards, that's a far shot. I'm thinking,
better safe than
I'm
sorry.
thinking like he's gonna come right in, Cinderella story, walk right in, 10 yards, boom, got a clear shot.
Yep.
And he's at 30, and I'm like, I don't want to rush this because
Yep.
I don't want to shoot him and then have to run after him through the thicket to try to find him. And I'm
Right.
like, that's just not what I want to do. So he ended up walking into the woods, and I stayed out till last light, and all I heard him fly up in the roost.
Perfect.
And I'm like, all right, Seth, we're not going to the gym tomorrow.
Yeah,
We're not going to the gym. The roost, like I can hear him. It's within 80 yards.
Yep.
And it might even been closer because I mean it was loud. It sounded like the one that we kicked
Sure.
out of the tree.
Sure.
I'm like, they're right here. They're very close.
Yep.
So I sneak out as quiet as I could, left the blind, put the hen decoys in the blind, and I'm like, I just got my bag, my bow, and I'm just gonna get out of here. So I get out of there. Next morning, I'm freaking like that night. I am.
Yeah,
like,
you had sent
jacked
me
up.
you had sent me these videos of the jakes and like
Oh, I'm
dude,
so
and they
hyped.
roosted right there. We're like, dude, in the morning we're killing a freaking bird.
Yeah. So I get home, and that going off of that Sawyer spray. I can never think of what the name of the
Yeah, Sawyer's permethrin.
permethrin.
Permethrin, yeah.
We went out that all day in tall grass CRP. I've hunted twice in that private land in that CRP,
Yep.
and I haven't had a single wood tick on me.
Nice.
But I get home and I'm like, I'm gonna take a shower, like just in case.
Sure.
So I shower, eat, and I go to bed. It's like 11 o'clock. I'm like, okay, fall asleep.
What time shooting time the next morning?
Shooting time was we could
5:11.
We could shoot at 5:11. Yeah.
Yeah, what time were we supposed to meet, Kenny?
4:45.
Okay, so what time did you get there?
I didn't. I was so mad. I woke up and I must have been tired. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, I have no idea what happened. My phone is never on vibrate.
Yep.
And I remember setting my alarms, but like now I think of it, maybe it was the night before.
Sure.
I set them for the gym, and it was the same time, same everything. So
right.
I remember setting the alarm, like what the? And I woke up. It was 5:45.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, I had a missed call from Seth, couple text messages, and a video that, if you guys haven't seen the YouTube video that Scott made, it talks about all of this. It shows the video of the hen and the toms and all this, and then it kicks to Seth talking about how
the next morning it says, yeah.
You ever go hunting and your buddy's like, hey, I just put these birds to roost and meet me here and we're gonna go shoot them. Well, he's not here. And then like the minute he made that video, my picture pops up. And I'm like, you asshole. Like, and I was so mad at myself. Like, I was so mad. Like, and I,
Oh, for sure. You put those birds to roost. Like, it was dead to rights that would have action of some type,
And I was so mad. Like, I'm pretty hard on myself when it comes to a lot of stuff. But I was so mad at myself that I wasn't hard on myself. Like,
sure.
I was like, you just effed up. Like, they're plain and simple. Like, you cannot blame this on anyone else. Like, you overslept. And then that's when I was texting him.
Yeah.
I texted him and
I could tell.
I was so livid. I'm like,
I'm pissed.
I overslept. I stood Seth up like a prom dress. And I'm just like, God. And then he's like, oh, yeah, why don't you come down here and shoot this one? And it's the one that is at his work.
At his work?
I'm like, oh, thanks, you're not really helping. There's a big Tom there, too.
I didn't get a response.
I was like, oh.
So the funny part about that is the guy that works next door is still sitting out in his truck, and he's just looking at me like I'm some psychopath as I'm sitting out there like, this thing's gobbling back at me from the trees. He's just like looking out his window like, holy cow.
So I sat there, and it was like the time when we're supposed to meet, and I'm like, oh, again, he's 4 minutes late, 4 to 8 minutes late. He's had to stop at Quick Trip and get a sandwich. Right? And then you were out late the day before or whatever. So I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, now he's 5 minutes late. Now, like, this is going to start affecting our hunt. So I texted him, you up? And no response. And then I tried to call you, no answer. And, like, where we're meeting, I can hear cars coming from quite a ways away. I was like, I don't hear the cars coming either. If he was more than a mile away, he would have answered. So.
And I texted him, like, I don't know what happened. And he texted me back, I know what happened. You slept in.
Yeah. So I sit there, I'm like, whatever. I got all my stuff laid out in the parking lot. I'm like, I'll just take a stupid little video and send it to, like, the border group. Me, Scott, and Mac, and Tim are all on it. So I sent everybody that video. And then I was like, oh, frick, I'm just going to go to work. We got a TV at work. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll just go to work and watch some hunting shows and dream about what this could have been. And so I go to Quick Trip. I was so depressed that we weren't going to kill these. I go to Quick Trip and I get myself a Fat Boy sandwich, get myself a biscuit sandwich.
Oh, those are the best.
I know. Biscuit sandwich. And then I go to check out. I'm like, well, I really want a donut. And it's $1.50 for a donut, or I could buy 6 for $2.50. So I buy a box of donuts.
The blueberry?
Yeah. No, I just get the
Glazers.
Yeah, the creamer. Creamers. Yeah, Dream Cream or whatever they call it. Maybe that's something else. Maybe that's what you were doing. Anyways, so then the second I get back to my car, I'm like, what am I doing? There's a piece of public land here in town that I've never been to. I'm like, I'll go stroll around there for an hour before I gotta go to work. So I'm like, I'm kind of happy again, right? And so I take her right out of anyway, so I leave the gas station and I'm just cruising along and I'm like chewing on this donut like, hey, this is going to be a good day. And all of a sudden, like, picture me with donut half in my mouth and all of a sudden my eyes get big because I'm coming into this low spot with like swamps on each side. And it's still like pretty dark out there, right? And all of a sudden there's a family of baby geese and 2 geese in the road. And I'm like, there's either I turn left and kill baby geese, or I turn right and kill baby geese, or I take one of the big ones out. Like that was my choice. I'm like, sorry, Mama or Papa, you're going down. And I'm in the wife's freaking forward edge. And I'm doing, I was doing 55. I maybe got down to 45 in this split second. And that goose looked me right in the eye like, it's going to be quick. all I hear is its little neck. Whap! Yeah, right on the front of the car.
Oh,
whap!
You did it.
Oh, yeah, dude, there was no getting around it. I was like, I hope. And like, there was 2 little babies right by it. But I was like, they'll be safe, right? And all the rest of the family scattered, and that one dumb bird stood right there and just got smacked. And I slowed down and look in the mirror, and I'm like, man, maybe it's banded. Maybe I should turn around and
Maybe it's banded.
And I see the 2 little fuzzballs run off, and I see the big goose like in the road, like rolling around. I'm like, I'm going hunting. It's not banded. So I kept cruising. And long story short, I heard gobbles.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, there was a guy there though, right when I pulled up to where I was gonna enter. There's a guy like just walking into the woods. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna go into the prime spot and mess up his hunt. So I went to another portion of it, steep ravine, kind of cool. Saw a couple things. Got along this field edge where it bordered a private property, and just as I was getting to the spot where I was like, oh, maybe I'll set up here for 45 minutes or whatever I had left, there's a freaking blind there. Like,
it gets hunted pretty hard.
I guess. And I don't think the guy I saw was at an opposite end, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody was in there unless they came in from the private side. But I was like, I'm not going to go screw somebody else's hunt up. So I just snuck out of there and whatever. Called it a morning. And then I drove by on the way back to work. I went to see if that goose was there.
You drove by your carnage.
Yeah, my carnage. Yeah. And the goose was gone. So either the goose survived and crawled away. I doubt that. But it could have happened, right? It's going to be a little tartar now. But yeah. Or somebody else saw it had a band and picked up the goose. So I probably should have stopped.
Going back on that video, because like you went to the archery range.
Oh yeah, I did. That's right.
You went to the archery range and then you went and did all this hunting, and it would have been like the perfect music behind it with like all copyright stuff. If all of a sudden it's like, oh, your buddy, maybe I'm gonna go get a donut, and like if Scott could have cut the "It's a beautiful morning," and then there's you, like just
all
pictures
happy,
of you, like shooting your bow at the archery range, and then like taking pictures of like the decoy in your bow.
Oh
and
yeah,
everything.
sunrise,
Like
yeah.
That's all. Like you were talking about it. That's all I could think of in the back of my head is "It's a beautiful morning."
See, I went the complete opposite side on that. Like you cut to the what's that? That infomercial in the middle of the night for the adopt a pet deal.
Oh
yeah, the arms of an angel. All your stuff is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
There you go.
Sad, eating donuts.
Eating donuts by yourself.
That's me, Roy Goodman. That's 375 pounds.
Yeah.
we've been quoting dodgeball.
You were doing it the other day, too.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen that entire movie start to finish, right? But I know some of the quotes.
Sure.
Bleed my own blood, the whole night,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
But like you said a quote from there, and I'm like, I must have looked at you like, what the hell is the matter?
It was the quote that I did to you at the gym. So we just got done. I think we were doing squats. Or we were doing, I can't remember exactly what we were doing. And I stop. I look at him. I start shaking my leg. And I'm like, involuntary spasm. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
Oh, man.
If anyone listening has never seen the movie Dodgeball,
It's worth your time.
it is. I watched it again, parts of it last night. It is so funny. Just the one-liners. And like you said, who's the main actor? Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller, yeah.
He plays the heavyweight, like he just plays that dick, just like the
Over
how
athletic.
He's the
Yes.
nurse on Happy Gilmore, like that same character.
Yes.
And
yeah.
heavyweights and
Yes.
dodgeball. Oh, it's a perfect spot
It's the
for him.
best. It's worth
so
watching
funny.
on a rainy weekend.
Oh,
for sure.
God, it's funny.
That line from Happy Gilmore when he's the nurse, you'll go to sleep or
I'll
I'll put you to sleep. That's
right?
like the best line.
Yes.
Someone just
Okay,
pulled
one of.
landscaping duty.
That's, next to You're Gonna Die Clown, that's one of
Yes.
the like it's so memorable.
Oh yeah,
Right?
classic.
I hate to keep getting on these rants, and then you sent a picture today, or Snapchat today to Nick from Brotherhood.
Yep.
And you made the face. What was it? You sent the Snapchat.
Oh yeah, of the George Michael song.
Oh
Counting
yeah.
It.
And it was relax.
Yeah, relax. Don't
Don't
do
do
it.
it.
okay.
And it's just like you're looking at his truck the dashboard, right? And I sent back, I'm like, show me Magnum.
Ben Stiller feet. So,
Yeah.
so hey, so your season's over, but you have F season left, right?
Correct.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I bought the E tag, right?
Yep.
That was kind of by design.
Which is May 11th through the 17th.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'm looking.
Are you
it up.
Oh,
right
okay.
now.
I was gonna say I have
Yep.
a screenshot of
Yeah.
it, but I agree with you.
Yep. And then anybody with a gun license for spring turkey, if you don't fill it during your season, you can hunt in F season. As
Correct.
Well.
Yep.
So,
And that ends Memorial Weekend, right?
yeah, May 18th through the 31st is F season. So we're coming up to the last.
Yeah,
hurrah.
last chance for a dance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was part of my deal because I'll probably end up working Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day I always spend out at Fort Snelling, and then
Nice.
so I have Tuesday. I specifically took Tuesday off,
Yep.
the 31st, because that's like the last day.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, maybe I'll get a better shot, right?
Sure.
But I've got this Sunday, I've got next Sunday, I've got Tuesday. We'll see where we go.
Yep.
But the whole thing about going out and actually having them gobble back, huge confidence.
Yeah,
I
that
think
was
you
awesome.
agree. I mean,
Yes.
I spent some time, scouting some land out by me. Never found anything other than tracks. I think we touched on that before. Maybe
Yep.
Tangent Tuesday for way too long. But
Last
like,
week.
yeah, last week, yeah.
Yeah.
But like having him gobble back and then like seeing him because
Yeah.
Right.
he's 20 yards, right?
Mhm.
Had you just listened to me and stayed in the damn block, let me go get shotgun, your season would be over. With.
Yes.
The bag would be
That
filled.
would have been worth it.
That I
But I
yeah.
respect why you did that. I do. I
Right.
do.
Right.
But
You shouldn't have done it. But, yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Um.
How much better would it have been when he came back and then as he's crawling in the blind, there's a dead turkey in his seat? Like
I would have.
well, not in his seat. 'cause
But
he
that was the
forgot
thing.
it.
Oh,
Oh well.
I couldn't have.
Sure.
Going through all that work, especially being his first one, I didn't want it. It seemed like if that was me,
It would have felt
you would have been happy for the person that got it, but you also would have been so disappointed in yourself because it could have been you, kind of thing. you
Sure.
know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know if
No.
jealousy is the right word,
That-
but
that-
it's just
yeah.
like, oh man, like I really missed out, and I feel like it
Right.
would kind of kill the vibe.
Sure.
But
When you go hunting together, you experience it all together.
Yeah,
Whether
that's
it's-
fair,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? So that's part of it. So.
And I will say this, like, because we talked about that. You're like, no, I'd feel terrible if you ran to Fleet Farm and you're coming back an hour later, and I'm sitting there in the field just like with a big, shit-eating grin on my face, and I got a turkey, and you did all this legwork, which, quite frankly, there wasn't like this is the least amount of effort I've put into it. Hey, Andy, have you
text
seen
your
any
brother.
turkeys? Actually, I've seen quite a few. Great, I'll be knocking on your door next week. Right? But I get why you did it, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
100%. But it was still a blast to do it, right? And it was still like, each part of that was hilarious in its own right. Like, we're walking back through the field and there's this bird standing there. And it's like, of course this is how this would go.
Sure.
Look at the way the rest of the day
Right.
set up. you
Right.
know? And then having Todd 10 yards from the
Yep.
right? It just wouldn't have been the same
Dude.
without having it play out the way it
No.
it was definitely better than sitting at home.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
It was a blast.
Yes.
And if you're looking at going hunting around here, I think I know a couple spots that you could possibly go.
I've heard.
Yeah. As long as he shows up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm going. I'm not saying I'm going. I don't know. My turkey season, I went out this morning, to the same spot, and
No action.
it was. I know they're roosting in there, but
Well, yeah,
It
but
was
not
like-
necessarily every day, right? Like
Right.
they might make their rounds, but
in that woods, like they got to be close, and it's just like when you and I went out there, just nothing.
sure, that's
Like,
weird.
and it's not a gobble, and I know there's turkeys
Yep.
around there constantly. I see them all the time,
Right. Frustrating.
and not to get a call back, because I didn't get out of the woods. We start work at 7. I didn't leave the woods till 7:30, 7:35. And I appreciate you.
So you're late for work.
I said I was gonna be late, and then my boss, when I showed up, he's like, "Oh, Seth wanted me to ask How come? Where were you yesterday morning?
How was turkey hunting yesterday?
Yeah. Because I show up in all my camo, and everyone's like, "Oh, how was turkey hunting yesterday?" I'm like, "God, you son of a."
So can I say something though? Because you brought up your camel. I'll say this: that Huntworth stuff. Like I said, I'm just wearing Cabela stuff because I'm new to this, but that Huntworth stuff is pretty legit.
It is sweet.
Yeah.
And what was funny about that is, because I listened to the podcast where Scott got all that stuff in, and how excited everybody was, and I'm like in my car, right, and I glance down, and it's still sitting there.
Yep.
It's here. And I started duck hunting. I'm duck hunting, dunk. Right? So I like that one word from whatever it was last time. But so I bought this just this pullover hat, and I had no idea, right? And you guys start talking about Huntworth, and I'm like, why do I know that name? Well, sure enough, that's the hat.
That's what it is.
That's the hat sitting
funny,
in my
man.
center console right now.
Funny.
So I was, but that stuff is totally legit. Like you were like, here, feel this jacket, and I'm like, dude, that's pretty slick.
Yeah, super comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Comfortable.
It gets hot when it's 100 degrees. But,
Sure, anything's gonna get hot.
It was
100 degrees.
but it's comfortable stuff.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Well, next time it's 100, just don't wear underwear under. Let us know how that feels.
You can take. I did like going back on. Did we take a nap? I did finally decide like we were rotating with that second spot after Todd. We started rotating the chair back and forth. It was just sit,
which I greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
sure.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw my bag, and then all of a sudden I put my was laying down on my bag, and then all of a sudden I put my legs out, and like the blind's just too short. I'm like, I can just push it out a little bit. So I pushed the blind out, and I got my legs. I'm just laying flat. And I'm looking at my phone. Next thing I know, my phone's hit me in the face, and I'm like, and then I just put my phone down, and I think I fell asleep for like maybe 5 minutes, like just a power nap, and I think I was snoring a little bit.
Yep.
And all of a sudden he's like, "You sleeping?" I'm like, "Yep."
Yeah.
And then I woke up. I'm like, God, I needed that. And then I'm like, dude, switch, like lay down.
Yeah.
And then he laid down.
Rest
And
your
then he's
eyes.
like, why didn't we do this like 4 hours ago?
Seriously.
Like we could have been laying back here, and then Todd would have been came in, and we'd be like, hey, what's
Right.
going?
That's the best thing to hunt as a team.
Yeah.
You take watch, I nap.
I got a picture of that. I sent it to my wife. She goes, you can't even see out of the blind. I said, yeah, but I'm comfy. I'm incredibly comfortable.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. I think that's a good recap of the weekend. Fishing opener, turkey hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, look at all the stories you got from one day of hunting,
sure.
you two together.
Yeah.
Like that's why you just go out. Whether you sleep in, don't have your ammo, all that stuff. You still like get out there, see what comes of it,
And
so
the way that calling him a couple weeks ago to do the podcast, and then all of a sudden, like, we haven't seen each other in, it was 10 years.
right, right.
And then all of a sudden, hey, you want to go turkey hunting? Yeah, I'll get murdered. I don't care. Yeah, sure, let's go. Like, it's just the community of hunting.
Yeah.
Anyone can do it. It's a lot of fun, and I'll try to get out here, but days are winding down.
They're going to wrap up fast. It'll be summertime soon.
Yeah.
And Trevor, hopefully you can get one of your 9 rods out in the water here shortly.
I'm hoping. I got like $100 worth of fluorocarbon to replace still, so we'll see.
Yes.
I love fluorocarbon, but I hate fluorocarbon.
Hate buying it.
All right, so here's the deal.
Here's your quick facts of the week.
Cigar and Vizex is totally legit, and I've lost way less lures since I started using it.
Is it a brand?
It's a brand, and then Invisex is like the type. Like Cigar makes like Invisex, and they've got a whole variety of types, right?
Okay.
But Cigar and Vizex, like I used to just throw whatever fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon, and you guys have talked about this before, fluorocarbon gets very clear in the water, right?
Yep.
Darn near invisible. When I'm throwing like top waters and stuff, I'll throw them on a filament or even like, a copolymer type deal.
Okay.
But like this Cigar and Vizex, you can't see it. And it is super strong. Now, I'm not saying I haven't lost lures.
Sure.
I've left $50 in jigs on the bottom
Sure.
of the like everybody else. But like every single one of my rods that has that I use fluorocarbon on, it is Cigar and Vizex because it doesn't coil up. Right when I first started fishing bait casters, it was like I got to learn how to do this, and it's very similar to like turkey calling, where it's like this is going to be painful for a minute.
Yep.
And I remember my first cast with a bait caster, and I cranked that sucker out.
Oh yeah.
And I had like 50-pound braid, and I was throwing a crankbait, right?
Oh.
Wrong setup, right? Just in case anyone's wondering. And that bird's nest, it never came out, right?
No.
I ended up just taking a knife to the spool and just cutting all the braid off.
Yep.
but it's like those things that you learn, right? So now I'm like, I can literally look at that rack and be like, that one's got 10-pound fluoro, that one's got 30-pound braid with a 12-pound leader, that one's got 12-pound fluoro, 12-pound fluoro, 12-pound fluoro,
Yep.
12-pound fluoro, right? So like all these moving baits, I just use 12-pound fluoro.
Okay.
So like crankbaits, 12-pound fluoro. And some guys get super deep, like, no, I'm going to use 8 because it'll get 3 feet deeper in this 20-foot bowl,
Okay.
right? I don't have the patience for that.
Sure.
And some guys get real technical, like like on their spinning reels, they'll put a little sticker on the inside with 8 pound,
Oh,
2 pound.
jeez.
And you'll never lose it, but at least you remember what it is.
Sure.
I just create a list on my iPhone and just be like, this rod, reel. It's got
Organize
this,
it like
and
that.
this. And so I've got some work to do on the fishing rods for sure.
Nice.
And you were talking about Hank, right?
Mhm.
This goes here, this goes here, this goes here.
Yep.
Man, I remember those days, and that lasts like 2 weeks. Right? All my stuff's so organized right off the
Yes.
bat. And then like 2-3 weeks into fishing, it's just like, just chuck it in the bag. I
Yep.
don't care anymore.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know where it is.
The ones that like
in
go on
there.
top.
Yeah. What is just to not to extend this more, but bass opener / whatever.
Yeah.
You can fish for them now, but Memorial Weekend you can keep them. What
Is that both largemouth and small, or is there a difference between the two?
I'm pretty sure. I know there's some cutoffs, like
Sure.
where you're at in the state.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a few years ago, I think it's like 4 or 5 at this point. Minnesota opener was always like walleye and pike.
Yep.
And 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, they changed it so that largemouth and smallmouth would be catch and release only. And I think there's some pressure there from anglers, because
Sure.
in other states you can fish them year round, right?
Yeah.
You can't
Right.
keep them at certain times. I won't go into my deal on spawning and stuff like that. Like I've had people yell at me because we're fishing bass too early, and it's
Sure.
it's so easy. It is everybody's got their opinion, but I think there's some pressure from anglers that
Mhm.
really made that choice for the DNR. And so yeah, you're right. They're open, quote unquote, but they are catch and release at this point for the
Okay.
first 2 weeks of the season. So yeah, this weekend you can technically keep a largemouth bass if you love fried fish tasty mashed potatoes.
if it's early in the year and the water's cold? Like, I used to eat bass all the time, like in high school and stuff. When we used to go, we used to keep them, and you would flay them up, and I couldn't tell you the difference. I mean, now if I had one, I probably could, but I still think it's probably pretty good. If the water's
cold, yeah.
Sure.
If
I
once
agree
that
with you
water
for
gets
sure.
warm, not like walleyes, crappies, something, nothing's good.
That's
It's-
fair,
It's,
yeah.
It's all terrible.
It all is mushy.
And my mother-in-law loves largemouth bass, right?
Mhm.
So I'm not gonna
No, but
I'm not
you're
gonna
just
high
not a
horse
fan.
myself.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
absolutely kept largemouth bass.
Sure.
I'm a firm believer that if you paid for that, your license, do whatever the hell you want.
If it's legal to
Like,
keep and you want to eat it,
until
go for
someone
it.
starts paying for my license, you can tell me what I'm gonna
Right,
do.
right, exactly.
But yeah, I just and we talked about this. I'm the weird guy that doesn't eat fish, right?
Right.
But I fish a ton. But yeah, it's you can't keep them yet. But 3 more days, it's
Right,
catch and release
right.
only. But then it's open season.
Didn't it used to be like late June or something before it
It
opened
was
up? Or something
always
silly?
2 or 3 weeks after.
Oh, that's all it was.
Yeah, it's always been the 2. Muskie's open later.
Like June 6th, right around that time is usually when muskie opens.
Yeah, right when it gets hot, it's like the best time to fish for muskies. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, that's when you want to haul those big dogs. out of the
Exactly,
water.
yeah.
Ugh.
What's one quick tip for someone that say they're gonna go out bass fishing and they've never bass fished? What should they throw and where should they look?
They're creatures of habit a lot of times, right? So they're gonna find structure.
Yeah.
They're gonna look for areas they can not only hide from predators like birds, but they're also gonna find areas where they can eat, right? So case in point, right? Lily pads up here, the kayaks.
Oh yeah.
I love fishing lily pads. So like if you can get out on a kayak and get to small lakes, stuff like that, look for structure. Laydowns, lily pads, weed edges, things like that, right? Changes in depth, right, where they can hang on rocks.
Yep.
One of the lakes I fish, and we touched on it, was there's really no structure whatsoever. It's one giant bowl, but it's got a little bit of rock. If you're the first boat to that rock pile, you're gonna have a good day.
Nice.
But docks,
Yeah.
if you can, if you got a kayak, if you can, if you're out on a lake, fish docks. They love being tucked up underneath docks, right?
Yep.
Throw a frog along a dock and drag it back.
Do you jig up a frog or do you just slowly reel it in?
I pop it, right?
Okay.
So like, and there's ways to do it. Like certain frogs you can walk real easy.
Mhm.
If you buy those hollow body frogs,
Yep.
and they've got legs like that long. If you trim one of them down a little bit, it'll walk easier. But it's all on the tip of the rod, right? And so it
Unless you break your tip. Right?
Now that might be a great frog rod on the water.
Sure.
So hey, you might have just done yourself a favor. But look for areas of cover because they're going to look for other bait fish there,
Yep.
and they're going to look for shelter there, right? Like my wife, kid, and I were down at Long Lake, and we're walking across the bridge, and there's all these baby fish, right? Yearlings that are right up there. This makes for great radio when I wave my arm, but if you're looking at this online, but the shadow alone, those fish just, they're gone.
Oh, sure.
Right? And it's funny because I do it every time like it's something new.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Aiden, look at this. Aiden's my kid's name. And he now looks at me like, yeah, you've shown me that a million times. But they're gonna avoid predators, and if you get a shadow on top of them, they ain't gonna like that.
Okay.
Right. So they like docks. If you're throwing a frog up along a dock, a lot of times they'll come out and grab it. Why? Because it's an easy meal.
Right.
But if you can get up underneath there where they feel protected and suddenly the buffet is right in front of them, a lot of times you're going to increase your odds no matter what. And that's
Sure.
whether you're talking sunfish, crappies, walleyes, whatever it is. In my experience, you just have better odds because you're presenting it to them in an area they feel comfortable to begin with.
Right.
So for like one tip, think about how think about where they want to hide and where they want to eat.
And go there.
I've got an inflatable kayak. It makes it nice and easy to hit small lakes, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like fishing small lakes. I fish Lake Minnetonka a lot. I fish Lake Minnetonka every opener for the last few years.
Okay.
And beyond the fact that you're playing bumper boats with like 5,000 other
Sure.
boats and like 2,000 yachts, it's cool, but it's a race, right?
Yeah.
If you're the first one there, you're going to have a pretty good time.
Okay.
But once it gets beat up all day, they get kind of weary.
Sure.
But yeah, bass are fun.
Yep.
They're aggressive. They hit really hard at times, and they can be both easy and a challenge to catch depending on the day.
Sure.
Because I've had days where I'm like, I'm done doing this.
Yeah.
I'm going to golf.
Sure.
But I've also had days where it's like this,
Unstoppable.
this is why we do this,
Yeah.
right? It's amazing, but look for areas you think they'd hide because a lot of times that's where they're going to be.
Absolutely.
And then just be, I guess be versatile. Like if I'm going out in a boat, I'll have 4 or 5 rods, something like that.
Yep.
And they're all something different. I say 12-pound fluorocarbon, 12-pound fluorocarbon, 12-pound
Sure.
fluorocarbon. Those are a lot of my crankbait rods.
Okay.
And so I kind of went way off the deep end on crankbaits for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have like 6 or 7 crankbait rods,
Okay.
and they're all like very, very little differences.
Sure.
But I'll throw like a big square bill on one. I'll throw small square bills on the other. I'll throw like a rattle trap or a lipless on one. I'll throw
Yep.
a deep diver on another. And all those reels will be different too, right? This one's a 5.6 gear ratio. This one's a 6.4.
Oh, slow it down. Or speed it
Exactly.
up. Yep.
Yeah, so like when you're throwing a crankbait, you don't, and some people say this is completely wrong, but it's easier to speed up than it is to slow down, which is true when you're talking bait caster, right?
Yep.
So if you have a fast speed reel, it's easier to just slow down your reel. You get more power out of a slow speed reel at times as well.
Okay.
So like I'll use fast speed reels for things like jigs, things like frogs, where you may need to pick up that line quick.
Yep.
But like for crankbaits with a bill, I'll use slower speed reels. Like, talk about throwing grapplers,
Yeah.
They're going to float up a lot of times.
Sure.
Right? Because they're made out of balsa and the whole nine.
Mhm.
But like for a lipless crankbait, I want to rip that as fast as possible. I want it to get stuck in the top of the weeds and then just rip it out.
Yep.
Because a lot of times you're going to get your reaction bite from that alone.
Sure.
A swim jig, kind of same deal. Throw that kind of mid range, 6.5, 7 to 1 gear ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're getting power, you're getting speed, but you're also able to pick that line up.
Okay.
Baits that are going to present resistance to you, like a crankbait, like a chatterbait, I'll use a slower gear ratio because then you're not like wrenching on the thing all day long.
Sure.
Because you're going to feel it. You're going to feel like you're wrenching on it all day long if you're using a high-speed gear ratio.
Okay.
So sometimes it's just easier, quite frankly.
Gotcha.
I injured my shoulder when I was younger, and so some days it's like, I don't want to just wrench on this thing all day
Sure.
long, So yeah, I guess that's long story short.
I just
Yeah.
actually learned.
No, that was awesome.
I learned.
Yeah, that was awesome.
This is why I said that he's very knowledgeable in fishing, and I've told you, like, in different conversations
Yep.
on the podcast, like, Trevor knows his shit.
Yep.
There's a little glimpse of it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you ask him a question, and it's like, what's a simple question? This is the most simple it is. And
he
like,
broke it
and
down
Trevor,
4
like, just
different ways.
breaks it
That's
down
awesome.
to, like, all these different things and things that you wouldn't think of with gear ratios and everything like that.
Dude, that's the kind of stuff though, like for guys that think, oh, why bass fish? I get bored. Look at the detail you can go into, right?
Yeah,
Like, with
for sure.
different presentations and stuff, and what, like,
And like walleye guys do it too, right?
Right,
I mean, muskie
absolutely.
guys, same deal.
Right.
But yeah, you can nerd out on this stuff.
for sure, man.
Right, and there's times where it really makes a difference.
Mhm.
There's other times where I know I'm just going,
Overboard,
just
but-
because
OCD, just
Yeah.
like
Like-
you're getting too fancy.
I'll look at it and go, well, seriously, do I need both crank? Yeah, and I'll just reference crankbait. Okay, so this one is 14, this one is 12.
Yep.
I'm not in a tournament for $100,000 in a truck. Is this really going to make or break my day?
Sure.
Who cares?
Right. Let's go fishing.
Seriously,
Right.
let's just go catch some fish.
You don't
Yeah.
you don't do like the old thing when you're a kid and like you're out playing basketball and you're like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, game
The
winner!
buzzer!
Yeah. You don't picture that when you're out like tournament fishing. I need to get this fish. I need to win $100,000 and go on a honeymoon.
I have called my shop before. We were up at my my father-in-law's cabin in Audi,
Mhm.
and my wife's on the dock. Get back here! We gotta do it. Right. And then my wife's younger brother came out on the jet ski. Hey, Mel wants you to come back. Yeah, I heard. And I went, all right, one more cast. Shoot, with a frog, and boom, got him. Right? And the lake
Awesome.
wasn't really
Fun.
that good for fishing, but it was good to go
Yeah.
fishing.
Sure.
But it was just like, call my shot. One more shot.
Yep.
One more cast.
Boom.
We're going to catch one. Boom.
Oh, how fun is
So
that,
that's
man?
sweet.
That's awesome. Now I want to go fishing. Yeah. Got me
Go
all
tomorrow
juiced up.
morning.
Oh, don't be a bad influence.
Take off. We'll just
I
both
gotta
take
work.
work off.
I gotta work. I've been playing all day today. I'm supposed to be doing stuff. Well, let's wrap it up here, man.
Yeah.
That was a great episode. Thanks for coming on again, Trevor. That
Yeah,
was
thanks
awesome,
for
man.
having me. That was
That
fantastic.
was fun stories, and I don't know. Turkey season's still open. Who knows if we'll come up with some other tales before the end of the season here.
We got a couple weeks before that tag has to get boiled.
It's true. It's true. Awesome. Well, for now, with Border Outdoors, I'm Seth.
I'm Mac.
And I'm Trevor. Thanks again.
See you guys next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Border Outdoors podcast. Follow us on Instagram. Be sure to join, follow, and share the Border Outdoors Facebook community page. Please leave us a 5-star rating on Apple, Spotify, or your preferred podcast hosting site. Be sure to tune in next week to see what the guys are talking about.